Welcome to Still Speak Podcast. I'm starting another episode mini-series, and in this series, we're going to be covering the story of 3 children, all of whom were murdered in May of this year. Many of you have heard of all 3 cases. Some of you maybe heard about 1 or 2, and maybe someone out there hasn't heard about any of them. They all share something in common, and that is, as far as we know, all 3 children were not in a biological parent's care at the time they were murdered. The 3 innocent children who lost their lives were Cash Gernon, 4 years old, from Dallas, Texas area. He does have a twin brother. Samuel Olson, he turned 6 2 days after being reported missing from a Houston, Texas area, and Amari Nicholson, just 2 years old, from the Las Vegas area. And in this one, we're going to start with discussing Samuel Olson. As I said, Samuel was 5 when he, quote unquote, disappeared, but he turned 6 on May 29th, just 2 days after he was reported missing, and again, he went missing from the Houston, Texas area. 5 days after Samuel was reported missing, his battered body was found stuffed in a tote in a Jasper, Texas motel room. The boy's father, his girlfriend, Teresa Balboa, was taken into custody at the motel, and she was originally charged with tampering with evidence. She has now been charged with capital murder in the death of Samuel Olson. She's the one who actually reported Samuel missing, but police say that there were holes in her story from the very beginning. A roommate of Balboa's was arrested on June 22nd as well, and a very short time later, a third person was charged for helping to hide the body of Samuel. And it remains to be seen if others will be charged. Now, let's backtrack here. April 30th, Houston police say this was the last day that Samuel attended school at Holbrook Elementary. They said it's also the last time that anyone outside the family reported seeing the little boy who had blue eyes and curly brown hair. Samuel's paternal grandmother, Tanya Olson, told the media that she last saw her grandson the first week in May and gave pictures with a timestamp of May 2nd, and she also claimed that she last spoke with Samuel on the phone about a week and a few days after that May 2nd. Dalton Olson, Samuel's father, later told police the boy had been staying with Teresa and her roommate at their apartment in Webster, Texas since April 30th. Mind you, this is about 30 minutes away from Dalton. Dalton claims that Teresa looked after Samuel while he worked long hours in construction. On May 28th, Balboa's roommate, Benjamin Rivera, told detectives that Samuel died on or about May 10th, and he said Teresa called him at work that day to tell him that Samuel was deceased. Rivera said when he returned home to their apartment, he saw Samuel's bruised body lying on a bed. And they said that they decided to place the small boy's body in a bathtub for a couple of days. But later, during a search of Rivera's phone, investigators found a text message from Teresa to Benjamin Rivera on May 5th, saying that she needed to speak to him before he can come in the apartment. So investigators do not believe he actually died on May 10th, but possibly May 5th. Rivera told police that on May 13th he went to Walmart and bought a plastic bin and duct tape. Investigators say the receipt was found during their investigation. Rivera said that he and Teresa wrapped Samuel's body in a plastic sheet before placing him in the bin, and according to court documents, Texas messages showed them discussing moving the body because an apartment maintenance employee was going to be coming by their apartment. This was 2 weeks to the day prior to Samuel being reported missing. However, he was not moved out of the apartment until May 22nd, when they took the boy's body in the bin to a storage unit located on Highway 3 in Webster, Texas. Police say surveillance video from May 22nd does show a man and woman arriving at that facility in a pickup truck that is like one that Rivera drives, and a black tote was in the truck bed. Video shows them placing the tote in the storage unit. So they discussed, moving his body, but when he went to go get the bin was on May 13th, and this is May 22nd when they actually took him to a storage unit. So this was roughly, 9 days. Yeah, 9 days later. So then, May 27th, Houston police received a call at approximately 6 p.m. that Samuel Olson was missing from southwest Houston. And officers responded to the house in the 8800 block of McAvoy Drive. And they interviewed Dalton Olson and Samuel's father, and Teresa Balboa, Dalton's girlfriend, 29 years old. And they told them that Samuel's mother and a man dressed as a police officer picked him up that morning around 7 a.m., and Teresa said the officer told her that she could be charged with kidnapping if she didn't turn him over. Officers contacted Samuel's mother, Sarah, right away, of course, to confirm her alibi, and she did check out and had a good alibi. So right from the start, the cops were like, not buying this story, because they already spoke to the mother. And on May 28th, the next day, homicide detectives were assigned to the case. This is very fast after somebody's been reported missing, so they clearly believed that this was not just a missing child at this point, especially after talking to Sarah, Sam's mother. On May 29th, Houston police put out an alert about Samuel to the media, but they didn't mention this made-up story that Teresa told about the mother and the police officer. And this was also the day Sam turned 6 years old. It was his birthday. His mother, Sarah, left a cake, some balloons, and candles next to a flyer of her son. And she also posted on Facebook, quote, "I love you, Samuel. I pray you're okay. I love you, my baby. Happy birthday," unquote. May 31st, the search for Samuel continued to intensify, and Texas EquiSearch volunteers started to search a few areas. Now, for those who don't know, Texas EquiSearch is a search and rescue organization, and it's dedicated to searching for missing people. They've been involved in a lot of high-profile abduction type cases, including Natalie Holloway and what have you, and they work alongside law enforcement. They were also in the Summer Wells case that's still ongoing. They helped out in Rogersville, Tennessee, looking for Summer Wells, and we covered Summer Wells on this channel. EquiSearch founder Tim Miller was quoted saying, quote, "I sure as hell don't think this is going to have a happy ending," unquote. He also said that he knew Teresa Balboa was lying from the start, and he even told Samuel's father, Dalton, that he believed that Teresa was lying. And within walking distance of the area that EquiSearch was looking for Samuel, police were searching the gateway at Ellington Apartments after they say they received reports that this was the last known location that Samuel was seen at. Miller later confirmed that Teresa lived at the complex with a man who at the time was unnamed, but that we now know his name is Benjamin Rivera. It was their apartment, and they searched it, and they also towed her car, a 2012 Dodge Avenger. Another man that we later find out, his name is Dylan Walker, 27 years old, said Teresa called him and asked for help. He told the Texas Rangers that he met her at a Walmart and drove her back to Webster to retrieve a bin from a storage unit before heading to Jasper. On June 1st, Walker booked a room for Balboa under his name at a Best Western Inn, and surveillance camera again confirms this and shows a man and woman getting out of a truck registered to that man and them dragging, this is terrible, but dragging a plastic bin into room 106. And it was approximately 3:30 a.m. when they were doing this. Walker then went home and called Crime Stoppers and told them that they could find Teresa Balboa at the Best Western, because at this point, no one knew where Teresa was. The day prior, she had disappeared in the middle of them doing a search for Samuel, and, they talked to the press. And apparently during this search, while they were looking around and passing out flyers, she up and disappeared. Crime Stoppers contacted law enforcement, who headed to the motel, and Teresa Balboa was taken into custody. Houston police chief said at that time that they believed they found the victim. And on June 2nd, at a news conference, it was confirmed the body of a child found in the Jasper motel room was believed to be Samuel, but of course they had to wait for the medical examiner to make a positive official identification. And at this time, it was said that homicide detectives planned to question other people about Samuel's disappearance, including the boy's father, Dalton Olson. And it was also said that they did not have a motive in the case just yet at that point. I'm sure they have established a motive, now in September, but back in June they had not. Now, Tanya Olson, Samuel's paternal grandmother, so this is Dalton's mother, said that she was shocked that Teresa was arrested in connection with the case. And Samuel's maternal grandmother, so Sarah's mother, said her daughter had been in a custody dispute with Dalton and that her daughter was broken beyond repair over the death of her son. June 3rd, Samuel's body was taken to the Harris County Medical Examiner's office, where an autopsy was performed. And on the same day, KHOU 11 learned that Teresa lost custody of her own children 2.5 years before Samuel's death. Court records revealed a very troubled history between her and her two children's father. They also learned that Dalton allowed Teresa to watch Samuel despite the fact that Dalton had a protective order against her. Court documents showed that Teresa assaulted Dalton last November in 2020 and allegedly choked him, and she was ordered to stay away from him and his family. So that right there blew my mind when this case was unfolding, that this man allowed this woman to have his child in her care just months after she allegedly choked and attacked him and was ordered to stay away from not only him, but his family, which would include, of course, who? Samuel. Oh, goodness. We're going to get to that. On June 5th, Teresa faced a judge, and her bond was set at $600,000. Originally, it was going to be set at $500,000 for tampering with evidence charge, and then they added another $100,000 for impeding the breathing of Samuel's dad in November. The district attorney said more charges would be coming, and that's common because they have to wait for the autopsy to see if there's any more information they can get from it to where they can possibly charge her for more. So at that time, she was not charged for actual murder. On June 8th, Samuel Olson was positively ID'd as the body that had been recovered. Samuel died from homicidal violence with blunt head trauma. The autopsy disclosed this. On June 22nd, Benjamin Rivera, Balboa's roommate, was arrested and charged with tampering with evidence, a human corpse. And on June 23rd, Rivera made his first court appearance where his bond was set at $100,000. The next day, he posted bond and was released from prison. And prosecutors also say they believe they found the weapon used in Olson's murder, but no details were given on what weapon was used. And I said prison, but technically it's jail. Jail we kind of associate with when you're waiting for trial. Prison is usually after. An article that I got that from said prison, but I'm going to change it to jail, just because that's how I associate the two words. But also on June 24th, the third suspect was arrested, and he was also charged with tampering with evidence, a human corpse. Dylan Walker, who we spoke about earlier, is accused, of course, of booking the hotel room where the child's body was found, and he's also accused of helping to move the body there, and he too has bonded out of jail, leaving Teresa the only one to remain in jail. July 8th, Teresa Balboa was officially charged with capital murder in the case of Samuel Olson. And court documents said that Teresa struck Samuel with a blunt object. And we still don't know what that blunt object was. Samuel Olson's mother, Sarah, alongside her lawyer, stated that she felt like Samuel's father, Dalton, should be in custody too, after learning that his girlfriend, Teresa Balboa, was arrested and charged with tampering with evidence in connection to her son's death. She said, quote, "With all of the evidence that has been brought to light, how is he not involved?" unquote. And Sarah said that she believes the police have all the information they need, and as far as charges are concerned, she believes they know what they're going to do. She later said, after Teresa was officially charged with the death of her son, Samuel, she said, quote, "I am thankful for Teresa being charged for murder, but I know for a fact someone else needs to be charged, and he's still out there just running around free. It's Sam's father. It's Dalton Olson. He was supposed to keep our son safe, and he didn't. He took him away from me for what? To have him murdered?" unquote. Samuel's parents had been involved in a custody battle over the boy after filing for divorce, and a spokesperson for the Department of Family and Protective Services said that they could not confirm who had custody of the boy at the time he went missing. They said, quote, "We don't have details to share because investigations are confidential by law," unquote. Sarah's lawyer, Gonzalez, said his client had primary custody and was denied for many months from getting her son. He said Sarah hadn't had access to Samuel since January of 2020, and this was roughly 16 months prior to Samuel's death. But she actually saw him for the last time in May of 2020 for his 5th birthday, so 1 year prior to his death. She said that day, the day of his birthday, that she planned to take the boy home, but she was denied this by Dalton, and he prevented her from communicating with Samuel after that day. She alleges that when she went to go leave with the boy, that Dalton stood in front of the car, wouldn't let her leave, an argument ensued, and he called police claiming she hit him with the car, and they actually arrested her. And later she spoke with police about figuring out what to do about getting her son, and the police basically told her that it was a civil matter, so she had to take it to court. So she did, and they were trying to serve Dalton, but they can never locate him, whether he kept moving his location or what have you. They never were able to locate him. And Gonzalez said his client feels like she was let down by the system, and she said, a quote, "All I want is justice for Samuel, my baby. I don't want people to forget Samuel's name," unquote. Now, this is interesting because if he was keeping the boy from his mother, it's possible that the real reason that he was sending Samuel with Teresa was to keep the boy away from being taken by his mother. Possibly as a way to tuck him away, so to speak. On the flip side, Samuel's father, Dalton, hours after his girlfriend's arrest in connection to his son, said, quote, "I can barely breathe. Why? He loved you so much. I don't understand what happened. Why did you do this?" unquote. And obviously he was talking to Teresa in hopes that she would see it, I guess, somewhere in the jail. His lawyers said that it's been a roller coaster, and he spoke with Houston Chronicle and added that his client has denied any wrongdoing and is shocked and devastated by his son's death. And this kind of killed me, ain't gonna lie. He said, "He had no reason to suspect that something was off with Teresa, assuming that Teresa did this." What? I mean, she did lose custody of her children, who are now 6 and 8. 2.5 years ago, and Dalton himself filed charges against her and got a protective order because she choked him. I would say those are two huge red flags, Mr. Lawyer Man and Dalton. But I get it. You're defending your client, and he's trying to get an explanation here as to, his shock. I get it. But seriously, I think there was very clear signs to suspect that something wasn't right with Teresa. Now, some people have their children taken away who aren't necessarily guilty of anything, but she tried choking him, and he didn't suspect anything was wrong with her. Okay. The day after she tried choking him, Teresa was released on a $50,000 bond, and that's when the protective order was filed that prohibited Teresa from communicating with any member of the family or household. This, of course, would include Samuel. So, why was he with her? Okay. So, when they were asked about this protective order, Teresa and Dalton, during a press conference, the couple told reporters that they had moved past this issue. I mean, she only tried killing him. I mean, what's the big deal, right? But they decided to move past this issue, and they were focusing their attention on finding 6-year-old Samuel. They stood hand in hand, and Dalton insisted he did not blame his girlfriend for his son's disappearance. Really, bro? Come on, Dalton. Come on. She was the last one to see your son. She had your son for weeks on end, and now he's missing. And you don't blame her for his disappearance in any way, shape, or form? Okay, bro. He said, I feel like I'm having a bad dream that I can't wake up from. And as a side note here, Chris Watts said something very similar to this. It's a very similar statement about bad dream and can't wake up. It's like living a nightmare. And his lawyer, Dalton's lawyer, said that Dalton was under the impression that the January 2020 motion involving Samuel's custody had gone through, giving his estranged wife little to no access over their son, when in reality the order was never officially set in place. Well, oopsie, Dalton. How did you not know it was not set in place? Are you kidding me? This is just a wee bit sketchy, if you ask me. I mean, who doesn't know that? And Sarah's lawyer is claiming that she got custody. And Dalton's claiming that he thought, keyword, that he did, and that she wasn't supposed to have much access to their son. And so this is his explanation for why he was keeping his son away from his mother. And then, later finding out that it was never actually officially set in place, 18 months later. That's hard to believe. You didn't know for 18 months that this order had never been set in place? I don't know. Dalton's an interesting character here. The complicated dynamic of this couple is what led, Dalton and his family to believe Teresa's original tale about Samuel being picked up by his mother, Sarah, without any warning, right? Because in his mind, he's keeping the kid from her, and, maybe she really did show up to take the kid, and she really did have the cop. Supposedly, he believed this. It's plausible, right? And then the lawyer was saying that he was believing that Teresa was innocent in all of this up until the time that Teresa went missing in the middle of searching for Samuel. They were out there, like I said, they were doing flyers and what have you, searching for him, and she just up and disappeared. What we know is that she had later went to go get the bin from the storage unit and move it to a hotel. That's why she disappeared. And at this point, when she disappeared is when Dalton started to think that something wasn't right, that maybe they had been wrong about her and maybe she was involved. Now, Sarah's mother, Samuel's maternal grandmother, said she goes back and forth in her thinking about Dalton. She's conflicted over whether he helped kill Samuel or whether he helped cover it up. It should be noted that Dalton has not, as of yet, been arrested in connection to the death of his son. Only 3 suspects have been arrested thus far. She said that Samuel was very special. He was funny. He was very affectionate. He gave awesome hugs. And that was one of her favorite things to do with him, was receive hugs. He always wanted to hold your hand, and he would rub your hand. She said that Samuel was obsessed with all things having to do with Toy Story. When he received Sheriff Woody and Buzz Lightyear action toys as presents, Samuel carried them everywhere he went. He had Toy Story pajamas, too. He would make us watch it over and over and over again. She said, quote, "I don't want anyone to forget him. I know it's not going to bring him back, but maybe it will help so this doesn't happen to some other little boy," unquote. During the day before Samuel was found at the motel, in a press conference, his paternal grandmother, Tanya Olson, made a plea that if someone knew something to please come forward. She was so emotional. I couldn't even make it through her press conference. Just tears were flowing. You could just feel this woman's pain and agony and grief. It was really heartbreaking. And I think she had a grandmother's gut instinct that this story was not going to end well, and she looked like she was really trying to process that. It was very hard to watch, and a few behavior panelist type people who do things about body language, even said that everything in her press conference was totally genuine. It was raw, and it was genuine, and there was absolutely no red flags. She said that Samuel loved dinosaurs, and she went on about how he knew what every dinosaur was and what they do and what they eat. She said he also loved Buzz Lightyear and Woody and Forky, and he had a really funny personality. And, she said that there was conflicting stories, and they were sorting out those issues at this moment, and that the last person Sam was seen with was Teresa. She said she and the family just found out the night prior that Teresa disappeared in the middle of search efforts the day prior and could not be currently found, and it was concerning her. The most important thing, she said, is if anybody knows where she's at, to please contact Houston Police Department. Teresa, if you're watching this, you need to contact the police. If you're telling the truth, you have God on your side. My son and us know nothing, and we are shocked and devastated for everybody involved. And lastly, Tanya said, he was with us. Dalton is not a bad father, and he would never harm that baby and loves him to death. He would die for him. Okay, so this is a tough case, man. It really is, because this was completely, in my opinion, avoidable. It starts at the custody dispute between his parents, and it's worked its way from that point. Teresa Balboa was not even allowed to have her own children in her custody, yet she had Samuel, who, was being kept from his mother, his real biological mother, in her custody for weeks. Teresa Balboa couldn't even have her own children in her care, but she had Samuel in her care. Now, I don't know if Dalton's involved. The police will sort that out. They seem to be doing a really good job. I'm not here to accuse. But why did he not speak to his son for 3 damn weeks? I mean, okay, he was at her apartment 30 minutes away. But no calls? No FaceTime? No Facebook Messenger video call for weeks? She went there with him April 30th? And it took you until May 27th to report him missing? Where were you? And why were you not checking on your son? This just leaves me speechless. This poor child. And why take the child from his mother, whether it was intentional or unintentional, as his lawyer has claimed, only to send him off for long periods of time to your girlfriend's house for days, even weeks on end while you worked? And on top of that, to the girlfriend who tried choking you just 6-7 months prior. This is tragic on every level. That child, Samuel Olson, deserved better. Teresa was clearly not a wise criminal as she was talking about the crime in text messages. She, moved the body twice to a location that had surveillance cameras, and, rather than going and dumping this bin in a field or water or wherever, she kept this bin, at a storage unit and then to the motel. Like, why didn't she get rid of it? So clearly she's not smart. So this doesn't really shock me that she's, dumb enough to take the risk of including others in her plan to cover up what she did to this boy. But in a way, I'm glad she's dumb because she made so many mistakes that it allowed for the police to hone in on her and lead to closure for the family so they know where Samuel was and, her being charged with his murder. What is also really shameful is not only did she kill another woman's child, when she didn't even have custody of her own kids that she birthed, but she initially tried to point to Sarah, the mother who hadn't seen her son in a year, as the person who took him. Now, this is similar to Letitia Stout. Letitia is Gannon Stout's stepmom. And in that case that's ongoing in Colorado, the stepmom has been arrested for his murder. That woman actually pointed the finger at Gannon's biological mother being the one that may have taken or hurt Gannon when it was actually her who did it. And if you've not heard about that case, there's a ton of information out there. It's in the preliminary stages of hearing, and the information disclosed this past week is so far beyond disturbing, it gives me chills. But similar thing happened where there was this push to blame the biological mother, but it's kind of like salt on a wound. Like this woman has not seen her son in over a year, and you go and you point the finger in her direction as the one being responsible for why this little boy's missing. Just unbelievable. But like Samuel's grandmother and mother both said, they don't want people to forget his name or his story. They know it won't bring Samuel back, but they think that it can maybe stop it from happening to another little boy. I agree with this wholeheartedly, 100%, and that's why I decided to share Samuel's story. Even if it's been discussed 100 times over, it's now been discussed 101 times over. His life was important, and he should be remembered and not forgotten. One of the things I said in one of my first videos on this channel was that I believe that we can learn from every case how to better not only our own lives, but the people around us, so that we can learn and grow from these cases, because we can't help the people that are lost, but we can help the people around us in the current present day. So I pray they receive full justice for the death of handsome Samuel Olson. Rest in peace, sweet boy. Until next time, I'll see you soon.